So I'm fairly certain that all of us should be able to answer this question right now. What differentiates the human person from all of the other living things on planet Earth? And the answer is humans have a rational soul, which gives us rational powers of intellect and will. And today we're going to be doing a deeper dive on exactly what those are, how they work, and how they work into our humanity. So first and foremost, let's start with the intellect, okay? The intellect can be broken into two aspects or two processes, two pathways, I like to call it. We can take a look at the active intellect and the passive intellect. So first, the active intellect is, let's say I come across this pen, all right? My senses are able to take in images of the pen, sense images of the pen. My eyes can see that it's black. I can feel that it's smooth. I can hear the clicking sound it makes when I snap the cap back on. And after my imagination and my memory process all of this and create a phantasm, the intellect is what takes this phantasm and tries to reason with it. What is this? What is the nature of the thing that I'm holding? Now, the nature of the thing is known as its essence. So, what our mind is trying to do is it's looking at the phantasm and it's trying to extract the essence from the phantasm. So, we can say that the proper object of the intellect, we're referencing the intellect as a sense here, the proper object of the intellect is the essence of a thing. Now, the essence is immaterial, okay? It's purely a concept within our mind. But what we call the process of taking the essence out of the phantasm is called the process of abstraction. When our mind abstracts the essence from this pen, we gain an understanding in our mind of what type of thing I am holding. All right? Now, the sensible soul is not capable of such a thing. It's able of analyzing the thing. It's able of analyzing as black, as a stick, as what kind of sound it makes, that it's smooth, but it's not able to categorize it as a pen because it's not capable of abstraction. So if you show a dog two different pens, the dog's going to have no idea that they are the same essence. The dogs are going to have no idea that they're both pens. They look like two completely different objects. All right. So now we have the passive intellect, which works in a very similar way. So the passive intellect is what takes the essence that resulted from our abstraction of the sense images, abstraction of the phantasm, and it what takes that essence and molds it into a concept that we humans can understand. Now, the best way I can explain a concept is it is something that you can categorize things into. A concept is a category. So, this specific pen, is a very nice Pilot pen that's black ink. It flows very nicely, but it's still a pen. And I can take a calligraphy pen that sadly I don't have on my desk right now, and it's going to be very different from this Pilot pen. But it's still a pen. It still has the same concept. So we can categorize it into the same pool of objects as a pen. And the way that our mind expresses concepts is through words. All right? When I say the word pen, that is my expression of the concept pen. Okay? Otherwise, if I were not able to form concepts, I would have to describe exactly what I'm talking about. Long, black stick with cap that has ink and can write on paper, cannot be erased. But I don't need to do that. An animal, if the animal was capable of vocalization in much the same way we are, an animal would have to describe it out. However, all we need do is describe the concept. Now, let's introduce the other part of the rational powers, the will. All right? Now, the will can best be described as what enables us to act upon the information that our intellect has given us. Now, you may reasonably ask the question, if all the will does is gives us the ability to act independently, then why don't animals have a will? Well, here's my answer to that. Because animals, though they act based off of outside stimulus, they are not in control of their... Okay. Apologies, I have a very obnoxious ringtone. Mom's bringing home Pizza Hut tonight. Anyway, where was I? The will. The will. So, what differentiates our will from the actions of animals is animals respond to stimuli like that. Okay? They're like machines, mindless machines. If I sense this, I do this. If this happens, my instincts tell me to do this, all right? It's very input-output definitive type of behavior, all right? They don't have the intellect to inform the will to make choices, so they don't have free will, all right? That's another characteristic of our will. It's free will. It's characterized by our freedom of choice, the intellect's ability to take in information and make informed decisions based off of that information. So, a bit earlier we talked about categorizing things, all right? So, we categorize things based off of specificity, all right? So, let's take a different pen this time, all right? We've got this pen right here. It's a silver pen. It's a very nice pen. So, the very broad category we could categorize this in is pen. All right. Now, that's the most basic thing. That's the substantial form. It has the substantial form of pen. That's another ability of our intellect. We are able to take in the phantasm of a pen such as this one, and we are able to separate the accidental forms from the substantial form. All right? We're able to separate silverness, black ink, shininess. We're able to take all that away and get at the essence of it, which is its substantial form of pen. And then we can slowly add on the accidental forms that we took off to get more and more specific categories. So we can add on these accidental form of black ink. All right? That moves this into a category of all black ink pens. Black ink pens that are smooth and straight and uniform. Another more specific category. So our intellect has the ability to categorize information. Unlike the animals, okay? They are unable to see similarities between the things that they interpret, all right? They can't tell one bird aside from another bird. They can only identify things with wings, things that can fly. See what I mean here? Okay, so the primary motivation for why our intellect acts the way it does, why our intellect seeks to know everything it can about the world around it, why the intellect seeks to take in information and ask the crucial question, what is it? Is because we as humans are naturally imbued with the desire to find truth. Now, truth is when the information in our minds that we've stored, modified by our imagination and our memory, when what we have stored in our minds is conforming to the reality, the objective reality, not the subjective reality. All right? So, no matter what I feel like, this will never be anything apart from a black ink, silver, straight, smooth pen. All right? I cannot bring in subjectivity to my intellect, all right? My intellect cannot take in a brown-colored pen instead of a silvered-colored pen. I cannot tell my intellect to take in subjective information. My intellect can only operate off of the objective information that the senses pick up. Which is why sensation is a sensitive power, because you are not able to control it with your own subjectivity. Neither are animals. So let's bring us back to the will, the other side of the rational soul. So, as we've discussed briefly, the will acts based off of the information and directives that it receives from our intellect. Okay? Our intellect governs our will. The will is not some abstract concept that we can't control. Okay? The will is our response to a desire, to our emotions. Okay? We covered irascible and concupiscible appetites in the last digital notebook, so that explains why the will might be drawn to certain things and repulsed by certain other things. Okay? The experiences of joy, pleasure, love cause the will or the rational appetite to be drawn to that thing. And fear, anger, hate, resentment propel the will away from those evils. But what's really interesting is that when we take in the phantasms of things that we like, things that we've directed our will towards, we're able to abstract an essence of goodness. Now, that goodness is very subjective, dependent on the type of thing that you're trying to associate it with, but it is still a universal, meaning that you can associate that goodness with almost anything that has a good characteristic. You can use it to categorize stuff. Okay, so we've established that the intellect is capable of identifying goodness as a general universal characteristic. So the intellect is able to guide then the will to seek out that goodness in everyday life. Now, in the process of seeking out this type of goodness, there are two types of goodness that it may come across. We have the finite good, and we have the infinite good, which is a bit more rare, let's call it. So, the proper object of the will is the infinite good. It's constantly searching for the infinite good. However, the infinite good is not something we readily encounter in our lives, all right? The infinite good is something that is truly good without any drawbacks, okay? Now, a lot of the things that we might consider good in our lives are things like sleep, having fun with our friends, like TikTok, YouTube, all of these things that bring you happiness, and that's our body's natural reaction to an encounter with goodness, happiness. If it makes you happy, it probably means that it's good. So, what's the problem with all of these? They're finite goods, all right? So what that means is that they don't completely satisfy the intellect's appetite for goodness, the will's appetite for goodness. So sleeping costs you time. Scrolling through your phone costs you your sanity. I make that TikTok joke all the time. Scrolling through YouTube costs you your motivation. Indulging in candy costs you your teeth. So there's a negative cost to all of this goodness, this finite goodness, this goodness that causes you happiness at a price. All right? So that's why all humans are naturally drawn to a greater being, a God, a purpose that transcends the finite good, and that brings happiness without sacrifice. So, alright. So, as a result of us being able to choose consciously what we do with our actions, where we spend our time, how we try to achieve happiness, our intellect is able to analyze our will, analyze our decisions, analyze how we act in accordance with our lives through time in conjunction with the world around us. Okay? Now, this realization leads to self-consciousness, being aware of yourself and the impact that you have on the world, the impact that your actions have, the realization that you are an integral part of your own existence. Now, that sounds like obvious, but animals don't know that they exist, okay? That's what sets the human mind, not the human as an entire being, because we know what separates humans from animals is their rational soul. But the human mind is separated from the animal mind because the human mind is self-conscious. It is aware of itself. And because of that, it's able to act freely with respect to itself. Thanks so much for watching. Hope y'all learned something, and I hope you found that exciting.